This video is brought to you by John Robson Guitar Tuition. If you enjoy the content, please consider supporting the channel by enrolling on a course, purchasing some guitar lessons or a t-shirt, or you can join my Patreon. Now, on with the show. Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, and especially at the moment, I do hope you're well on this really sunny, lovely day. I was out this morning with the missus and the dog, 6:30. We were down there on the beach and, just for half an hour or so, the world seemed a rather nice place. Anyway, back to reality. What have I got for you today? Well, it's a video that I've had in the pipeline for a while, but now seemed an appropriate time to get to grips with it. Basically, 5 practice tips, 5 ways that you can enhance your practice sessions and guarantee that you make more progress than you otherwise would. All of these little tips and tricks here are applicable no matter what your level of ability, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, advanced, whatever, these will benefit you. And I'm sure there will be some of these that some of you will think, well, yeah, I'm already doing that. But I'm hoping that there's at least a couple of things in here that everybody will think, oh, okay, yeah, I hadn't thought of that. I'll give that a go. So, without further ado, let's get cracking with the first one.
You absolutely do have time to practice.
Indeed, you absolutely do have time to practice, and I'm going to prove it to you. The big myth is that you need to do hour upon hour upon hour of practice to get anywhere. You don't. When you are working on a tricky little problem, a knotty little bit of a song that you need to get past, then just ask yourself, okay, is it one chord change? Is it one little change of fingering in the middle of a lick or something like that? And ask yourself, how many times can you do that in a minute? How many times can you go over that little move in 60 seconds? Let's say it takes you 5 seconds to go through one cycle of whatever it is that you're working on. You can do that 12 times in a minute. Let's round that down and say, allowing time for reset, you're going to be able to do it 10 times in a minute. In 10 minutes, you can do it 100 times. Anything that you have done 100 times back to back, you're going to be a little bit better at it by the time you finish. So if you can just focus your practice in short bursts like that, anyone can find 10 minutes a day, even if it means setting the alarm 10 minutes earlier on a morning, and you will make progress that way. So, next.
Practice the difficult stuff.
Okay, now this sounds obvious when I say it, but I'll say it anyway. Practice the bits that need the practice. Yeah, it sounds obvious, doesn't it? But you'd be amazed how many people don't do this. Let me tell you what I mean. It's very, very rare that however much of a beginner you are, that a piece of music will be ridiculously difficult from the moment you start playing to the moment you finish playing, from the first chord to the last chord, or first note to the last note. It will be, a journey. There will be easy bits and there will be tricky bits. Okay? So, for example, complete beginners who come to me for lessons, one of the first pieces of music they get is a little tune that I devised, which goes from an E chord to a D chord and back again. And it's all about basically an exercise in strumming in time and doing chord changes in time and stuff like that. And, some people find going from the E chord to the D chord the tricky bit. Some people find going from the D chord back to the E chord the tricky bit. So even if you're a complete beginner, there will be easier bits and there will be trickier bits. Find the tricky bits and work on those. Use that magic 10-minute kind of practice thing that I talked about in the last clip to go over and over and over whatever the tricky bit is, and you will get better at it. If you treat any piece of music, like a song or a solo or whatever, like some kind of special forces assault course, where, the moment you kind of fall off the rope swing, you've got to go back and start the whole thing all over again, 2 things will happen. First of all, you will get so bored with it that you just won't want to continue. And when you get bored, you're not paying attention, mistakes start going unnoticed, and that's the seed of a bad habit creeping in there. And secondly, what happens is, as you are playing the easy bits, you're beginning to worry about that tricky bit that's coming up in a few bars' time. Oh my dear, I hope I don't trip over that curb again. I hope I don't mess that up. I hope I get it right this time. And as you're concentrating on those thoughts, you're not concentrating on the supposedly easy part that you're playing right there and then. So you mess that up. And then it's, well, I could play that 5 minutes ago. I can't play it now, I'm going backwards. And, frustration, despondency, tantrums and tears before bedtime in some cases. So don't make that mistake. Find the bit that you find difficult, identify it and go over it and over it and over it in that 10-minute kind of loop that we talked about earlier. And you will get better at it, and then you'll gain the confidence to be able to do it in the context of the overall piece that you're learning. So there you go. Next.
Record your practice sessions.
Yeah, now this is a very valuable thing that you can do, and I've been doing it right from the word go, right from the late 70s when I got my first ever guitar. It just was something that I don't remember if anyone told me to do it, but I was certainly doing it. And better still these days, everybody carries a broadcast quality television camera around with them all of the time. So video yourself practicing. If you're coming up against some little knotty bit, some gristly bit of meat that no matter how much you chew on it, it's just not getting any more tender, then the way to kind of address this is to observe what you're doing as an impartial observer. And you will usually see when you look back at footage or just listen back to an audio recording, you will kind of see that, yeah, actually that looks a bit awkward, that little change that I'm doing there. Perhaps if I moved this finger first rather than that finger, or perhaps if I played that note with another finger or whatever, maybe that might be a solution. Ideas and solutions present themselves much more readily when you can view what you're doing from the perspective of an observer rather than the perspective of a player. So a very, very useful thing you can do here is record your practice sessions. Video them if possible, but even an audio recording is better than nothing. And, take notes. And then refer back to those notes, because you're then giving yourself advice. You're acting as your own guitar teacher, and you can take on that advice for your next practice session when you have the guitar in your hands. You think, yeah, okay, I remember I needed to do it this way. And, it's often a little bit of a shortcut to making big leaps in progress, because you are spotting what the problem is, and that's the first step to being able to solve the problem. So there you go. Record your practice sessions. Next.
Get it right, then get it fast.
Okay, whatever little conundrum that your fingers are currently trying to solve, the important thing is to get it right, then get it fast. Okay? Don't ever do it the other way around, because you will never get it right, and chances are you'll never get it fast either. It's all about getting the muscle memory and the finger fluency so that it's intuitive and second nature, and that you're not having to think about what you're doing. And basically it's about building the correct habits, not the bad habits of, kind of trying to play it in a way that isn't really efficient. Use a metronome to do this. Every lick that sounds like this began life as a lick that sounded like this. So yes, use the metronome, and, this is a good way of charting your progress, because, there isn't a great, you won't kind of hear or perceive a great deal of difference between something at 75 beats per minute and 80 beats per minute. It won't sound massively different. But if you can look in your little diary that you're keeping and thinking, well, yeah, I could do that at 75 beats per minute a couple of days ago, and now I can do it at 81, 82, then you can see there's a numerical value that you can attach to your practice sessions and chart your progress like this. The mistake people often make with a metronome, by the way, is to think that, okay, I've spent 10 minutes practicing something and I've got got it from 75 beats per minute to 80 beats per minute. And then the next day, they start off at 80 beats per minute, thinking that's the speed I can do it at now. Well, no, it took you 10 minutes to get to 80 beats per minute yesterday. It might only take you 6 or 7 minutes to do it today. So what you do is, let's say kind of 75 is your starting point on day one, and you get to kind of 80, 82, whatever. Day 2, start off at 76 or 78 and try and get up to 85 and overlap it like that and leapfrog your way up the metronome count. And, gradually, little by little, you will get faster and you will get that muscle memory and finger fluency working for you. And, you will be then able to take that tricky little bit that you've taken out of context and you're working on in that 10-minute loop every day. You can then gain the confidence and put it back into context and not have that that cloud on the horizon as you're kind of playing the bits before it and approaching it and thinking, oh, I hope I don't trip over that bit again. It doesn't matter whether it's a lick or a chord change or whatever. Slow it down, get it right, gradually increase the speed, and then put it back into context only when it's back up to speed. In fact, I would say if your target speed is, let's say, 100 beats per minute to learn to play something at whatever it is, then practice it, kind of use your metronome to get it up to maybe 110, 115. And then you have absolutely the confidence that at the correct speed, you're not right on the ragged edge of your capabilities. You can actually play it at that speed comfortably. So there you go. Get it right, then get it fast. Next.
Learn where stuff repeats itself.
Yeah, this is all about learning the neck. Now, let me just make what sounds like an obvious statement, another one. If you are a musician, you will find your instrument much easier to play if you know where the notes are on that instrument. I told you it sounded obvious, didn't I? But it's quite surprising, really, how many intermediate and even advanced guitarists come up against problems that the root cause is just not knowing where the notes are. A typical example would be a guy who came to me for a lesson a while ago, and he was really struggling with this solo that he was learning from a tab, and he was at his wit's end with it, and there was one particular knotty little bit that I keep talking about. There's easy bits and there's the awkward bits, and it was one of these awkward bits that he was struggling with. And I said to him, well, yeah, but you can refinger that quite easily and make it much more finger friendly, and the notes just fall under the fingers, because those notes that you're trying to attempt there with that awkward fingering that's in the tab, you can find those notes here, here, here and here, and suddenly it's easy. He says, I would never have thought of that. And, this is the kind of thing that can really put a roadblock in your practice and your progress. If it's not obvious to you that you can rework something and make it easier for, where your fingers want to go. How did I do this? How did I get a lead on all of this? Well, I did an entire video about this subject years ago, which still gets quite a lot of views. Excuse me, itchy. And to sum it up, what I did was basically I had a horrible guitar that would break strings, and I would find myself having to practice all week until I could get back into town on a Saturday to buy a new string or new strings on a guitar with only 4 or 5 strings on it. So if I was wanting to learn to play, a Hank Marvin tune, I was obsessed with the Shadows at the time, that needed a note on the first string, and suddenly the first string wasn't there, then I would know because of this tuning method that we all used to use back in the day, that the open first string was the same note as the 5th fret on the second string. So if I needed the 3rd fret on the first string, but the first string wasn't there, all I would do is add 3 to the 5th fret on the second string, and there's that note. Again, that's where I can find it. And then obviously I need to think about where I can get the other notes that are in that lick or melody or whatever and transplant them up to that part of the neck. And it was just like an ongoing thing for me because, as I say, it was out of necessity. I was breaking strings all the time and having to find where notes repeated themselves so that I could, continue playing. Here's a little exercise for you. Take a little easy melody and then, down on the open strings or that kind of area, your first couple of frets, and then find where it repeats itself all the way up the neck, a bit like this. And then by finding where those notes repeat themselves, you've learned a little bit of the neck. If you know what the notes are down on the open strings, because they're open strings, and we all know that the notes of the open strings are E, A, D, G, B, E. Elephants and donkeys grow big ears. Then you finding where those notes repeat themselves up the neck, and knowing, for instance, that the 15th fret on the 6th string is the same note as the open 3rd string. And just knowing all that kind of stuff, you gradually build up a picture in your mind of what's going on in the neck. It's like, here's an analogy I use all the time, it's like learning your way around a neighbourhood. Okay, the town where you live, you know where your house is in relation to the supermarket and where the supermarket is in relation to the hardware store and the bank and your place of work and all that sort of stuff. You just know this, you've got it in your mind, it's all mapped out. But you haven't got this knowledge as a result of staring at a map and trying to memorize it, which is the equivalent of what a lot of people do in order to try and learn the neck. The way you learn a neighbourhood is by exploring it. And this method of taking things and moving them along the neck and finding where they repeat is the equivalent of exploring the neighbourhood of the neck of the guitar. So, there you go. Those are my 5 tips to enhance your practice sessions. Hope you found this useful, informative, and entertaining above all, and maybe a little bit inspiring. And if you have, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already done so. You know all about the Fret Zealot giveaway that's going on this channel at the moment, but just in case you're new to the channel, I'm giving away a Fret Zealot, one of those nifty little tuition devices. All the details in how to enter the draw are in the description box below. If you've enjoyed the content, please check out the ways that you can support the channel. They're all in the description as well. And that's pretty much it for today. Don't forget the live stream on Friday, 5 PM UK time. We're going to have a beer, we're going to have a chat, we're going to have a laugh, and just basically put the world to rights, because it kind of needs it at the moment, I think, don't you? So that's it for today, folks. Thanks for watching. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you all again next time around. Bye for now.